Hi, Viper Chemistry students. All right. Hey, let's take a look at limiting reactants. This idea, and here's our slideshow. So, for Unit 7 Stoichiometry, Part 1 section of this unit is called limiting reactants. And what it really means is this. When you have a couple reactants that go into a chemical reaction, they're each going to have an amount. Okay, so many grams for reactant number one and so many grams for reactant number two. And as the product is formed or products, then what ends up happening is that one of the two reactants in the beginning is going to limit the amount of product that is formed. And so that's the idea. And so there could be a limiting reactant and an excess reactant in this. Okay, let's continue here. Now, think of the example of scenario one having one package of hot dogs, which can hold 8, and hot dog buns, which can hold 12. Now, how many hot dog sandwiches are we going to be able to make out of that? What's the limiting part here? Well, and that's obviously the hot dogs because there's 8. So you could make 8 hot dog sandwiches. I'm sure to put mustard on that. Anyway, in scenario number 2, we have a different situation because we have 2 packages of hot dogs and 1 package of buns. So we have 12 buns. We have now 16 hot dogs. Which one's the limit? The limiting part here on this little project would be the buns in this case. And you could make 12 hot dog sandwiches. Okay, you might want to try putting some pickles on that as well. All right, let's keep on going. Now, here is just a diagram that's kind of showing this idea. If you started with an amount of reactants, red and green, and then after the reaction, you had some red left over, then which one is the limiting reactant? Well, in this case, it'd be the green because it is completely consumed. So that's kind of the idea in that diagram. So as always, you have to start with a balanced equation. Okay, so that's one thing that we always want to make sure we have right is the balanced equation. So that's first priority. And then now that we've learned how to do mass calculations, we get to do 2 mass calculations for every problem. It's great. I love mass problem solving. It's like the greatest measure of our chemistry skills, at least up to this point. All right, now, so in the end, then we're looking for the reactant that produces the smaller amount of product. That is the limiting reactant. So let's see how this comes together. All right, so here's a problem. And you can see we have how many grams of aluminum sulfide can form from the reaction of 9 grams of aluminum or 8 grams of sulfur. I guess, and 8 grams of sulfur. I guess those are the amounts. So what we have to do is we have to figure out which one of those two is the limiting reactant. You know, is it always the one with the lowest amount of mass? Not necessarily. So you can't fudge on this. There's no shortcut. You've got to do 2 mass problems here. Now we have a balanced equation already here. So let's advance forward. Here is our model of our mass dimensional analysis sequence here for each of these scenarios here. And so we have the 9 grams of aluminum, and we work it down to the product of aluminum sulfide. And we see that with 9 grams of aluminum, we're going to produce 25.05 grams of aluminum sulfide. Whereas the 8 grams of sulfur, as we go through our dimensional analysis sequence, is going to produce 12.49 grams of aluminum sulfide. Which one of the two then is the limiting reactant? Well, the one that produces the least amount of product. So that would be, our answer would be sulfur. So as we can see here, we can compare the 2 results of the product. And then we have to choose sulfur as our limiting reactant. Which one is the excess reactant? Well, that would be the aluminum. Okay, so aluminum producing the more, but we're only going to get out